Legendary Watkins GLEN, located in New York State's beautiful Finger Lakes region, is well known as the spiritual home of the U.S. Grand Prix. But in that same spectacular era, its 6-hour sports car race became a prize stop on the glorious World Championship of Makes Tour, and it has continued to serve up great sports car racing ever since. This weekend surely carries that tradition forward as the GLEN hosts the SRO Blancpain GT World Challenge America, presented by CrowdStrike. It's just over the halfway point of the season with just 3 weekends remaining on the schedule, and there are big developments in the battle for the Drivers' Points Championship. Championship co-leader Tony Vilander will have a new co-driver in the number 61 R-Ferry Motorsports Ferrari. Daniel Serra will co-drive his Blancpain World Challenge America debut, filling in for Miguel Molina, who is driving for Ferrari in England at Silverstone.
Yeah, I think he will be back with me in the end of the season with Daniel Serra. So he's really experienced driver, super fast. So having seen the couple of practice sessions, I really need to step up my game. I had to be up his speed, matching his speed. This year he won Le Mans with the 51 car, so with Calado and Pierre Guidi, so not much more needed to say there. So super fast guy. Hopefully we will have a good weekend. That is what we need, and so far it looks quite good.
Meanwhile, nipping at the heels of the Ferrari drivers and leading the team championship are the 2 Bentleys of Capex Racing. Last year at Watkins GLEN, GT rookie Rodrigo Baptista blasted onto the scene, capturing both poles, leading every lap and winning both races in dominating fashion. He now looks for a repeat of that success.
Last year was my first time here, but the car is really good on the high-speed turns, so it gives me confidence to go around the turn, really quick with this car. So yeah, and I learned, a lot, so I think I'm ready for this year again.
Another story this weekend is a rule change that will now allow tire warmers, bringing the SRO American GT3 rules into alignment with SRO's global GT3 rule structure. And it may have an interesting impact, as teams will now need to decide how to manage their overall tire strategies. And with a circuit like Watkins GLEN, that could be crucial. Now let's have a look around this track with Porsche factory driver Patrick Long.
Hello and welcome to Watkins GLEN International. This is Patrick Long with another Porsche track preview. Driving the number 58 Wright Motorsports Porsche GT3R, we head down into turn 1. It's last of the late breakers, down to 3rd gear, early on throttle. Lots of road to use on the outside here. You see a Ferrari entering the racetrack ahead of me. Will be very close in the race here with pit lane exit. This is up through the S's. It's all flat out 5th gear. You're really opening your hands, trying to let RPM climb, being as smooth as possible. It's about 160 miles an hour. This is the fastest part of the racetrack. It's very difficult to overtake into what's called the bus stop here. Down to 4th gear, using all of the curbs. You can hear the car sort of slamming around as we maximize every piece of road available to us. The carousel, very fast 4th gear, just to breathe, no braking needed. Look to the exit of the racetrack, sneak by this guy on the left, down into what they call the boot, turn 6. Pretty quick corner, 140 kilometers an hour, up to 4th gear on the exit, heading down into what we call the toe of the boot, turn 7. It's very much an uphill corner. You can trail the brake in, bang it down to 3rd gear. Early on throttle is now you're ascending. This is the biggest climb on the racetrack as we head down into turn 8. A great overtaking opportunity. It's last of the late breakers again. There's good runoff here, so you'll see drivers taking lots of risk and using all of the road on the exit and then some. The officials will be watching track limits all weekend there. Turn 9, exiting the boot back onto the NASCAR loop. It's the slowest corner of the racetrack before you build back up to 4th gear. 2 corners to go. This is turn 10. Not even a full lift, no brake, very quick. Swing it back to the left of the final corner. It's an early speed adjustment, and then dig the throttle very early so you can get a maximum run off the exit right up to the wall. That's 1 lap here at Watkins GLEN.
And what a fabulous lap it is. Well, we are set for the start of the 2nd race of the weekend. And joining me, as always, is Cal Fish. And Cal, we are looking forward to a good one unfolding here as we get set for this round 2. We saw an intriguing race yesterday, so let's take a look at some race finale.
Alvaro in the Bentley stomps to the front here as they make the run down into turn 1. Baptista tries to go with him, but watch this. Daniel Serra sweeps around the outside. Pat Long makes some big early moves as well.
Yeah, he had a great opening lap. Meanwhile, Martin Barkey diving down the inside of Anthony Imperato. That gave them second in the Pro-Am category. Perrin had opened up a big lead of over 3 seconds right before the pit stops. It evaporated at pit end.
This was crucial right there. He gets stacked up on pit entry. Now Serra's right with him. K-Pax unusually have a bad pit stop, and that opens the door.
Yep, they get the win for Ferrari. That extends their points lead. That's critical as well. And of course, in the Pro-Am category, a big win again for real time in the Acura. So that's how race 1 looked. And we are getting staged for race 2. The stage is set. And there is the Ferrari. All eyes on our Ferry and that pairing. And we'll be back to find out how it all plays out. Well, some of the pre-race festivities are starting to wrap up, and we are getting ready to go. And Cal, as I said, I thought that first race was intriguing, and certainly some of the developments that unfolded during those pit stops. Not a great stop for K-Pax, which have sort of set the bar for good stops. A brilliant one from the R Ferry team. And one of the neat things here that's unfolding for this grid, we take a look at it. I think cars 3, 4, 5, and 6 on the grid, Cal, are all Pro-Am combination cars qualified by the pros.
Yeah, and you have to wonder what the mindset will be for Andy Soucek. I mean, they dropped more points to R Ferry, the championship leaders, yesterday. He and Alvaro Perrin, another 7-point swing, so they're now 21 points behind. He sits 7th on the grid, does not have a good qualifying run, and to get to those front runners, he's got to work his way through guys like Marcelli, Dennis Olsen, Ryan DL, Dane Cameron. They're going to be exceptionally quick, and they're going to be in their own little battle.
And it's interesting, you often see in one qualifying session a car will go out and not be on the pace, and it's just a 5-minute break or so between the 2 qualifying sessions, and the next guy goes out, puts it up into the top 2, or vice versa. You'll have one really strong. How can it change that quickly? What can they do?
Well, it's subtle, and for Andy Soucek, admittedly, this is his first time here, so he didn't quite find the sweet spot. He looked over data after that qualifying run. He was pretty strong in the race yesterday, so he's got pace, but unfortunately, he set the table now by having to come from mid-pack.
And every once in a while, you get that great little bit of input from a driver who gets out of that first session and tells you something, because you haven't had a chance necessarily to get on the track before that quality session immediately. Maybe something on the track, he can give you a little bit of input, and that can help you find a little bit of pace here. Here are the 2 DXDT cars. Had an interesting incident in that first race where they actually came together, and both of them had to check into pit lane. Obviously, the DXDT crew probably not well pleased with that. Things happen in racing, and certainly a great qualifying effort, particularly for Ryan Dial in the 63.
Yeah, he had a monster lap there in qualifying. He's actually on the pole in Pro-Am, will line up 3rd. So on the inside lane, right behind Vilander in the R Ferry Motorsport number 61 Ferrari. You got to wonder what Dane Cameron's thinking. He's not out of this championship battle. Remember, they didn't do the initial rounds of the championship. He's now with Mike Hedlund. He's not that far out from the leaders, Marcelli and Barkey.
Field about ready to set off for this second race of the weekend. Essentially, it is going to be the 10th round of the Blancpain GT World Challenge America at Watkins Glen, presented by CrowdStrike. And that field down on the grid, and that is where the 3rd member of our broadcast crew stands, Ryan Marine.
Hey, thanks so much, Greg. Well, live pit stops, that's something new to GT3 racing in Blancpain GT World Challenge America competition starting this year. And the 2 teams that have adapted to it best are behind me, R Ferry Motorsport and K-Pax Racing. And it was a duel in the pit lane that settled race 1 yesterday. Out of character, K-Pax really struggled. They had a slow pit stop. That allowed the R Ferry Ferrari to get by, and it might have cost Alvaro Perrin and Andy Soucek a race win, and critically, big-time points in the championship. But K-Pax is a proud team. They're not going to take that lying down. You know they've been working on it to clean things up for the race today. We expect the battle on pit lane to be just as fierce and just as pivotal as the race on track. And as the cars roll out, we're getting closer to that time when that pit crew can go into action and perhaps win or lose a race.
Yeah, it was absolutely crucial, and it looked like a rear tire problem on that stop. I'm sure they've addressed that, as you point out, Ryan Marine. So as the field sets out for their pace and parade laps, we are looking forward to the start of racing here at the Glen. And that's interesting, Cal, when you have an issue like that where it looked like both rears on that one Bentley just presented a little bit of a problem at that point. You know, what can you do? You go back to the garage, practice it, and find out what the issue was.
I'm sure they'll review video, look at the wheel gun, see if there's any snafu there. I think there's a lot of pressure on them. I mean, they expected to come in, just do their normal deal, and Alvaro was suspected to have like a 3-second gap, but suddenly with that stack up on pit in, as George Kurtz was coming into his pit box, delayed Alvaro, suddenly the pressure was on, and it's so easy. And let's remember, there's been an 85-day break in the action. I know these teams rehearse, but there's nothing like being under the gun, literally, in terms of the pressure situation of a race.
Yeah, under the gun with the gun, and it can happen. And want to point something out, in George Kurtz's defense, if you didn't see the race yesterday and you saw that highlight, you might go, what was he doing going so slow in? Well, that car was wounded from that contact with his sister car, and he was tiptoeing around in there because that car wasn't quite right. So you really can't lay it at his feet, and it was just bad luck in terms of timing when Arendt caught him.
Absolutely. So everyone will try and sharpen it up. I mean, there's some pretty good pit stop times up and down the order. A lot of people right on that 64-second minimum time. They also have the 1-second joker to work with. You're allowed one per weekend, which means you can be up to 1 second underneath that minimum. Maybe some of the teams will try and utilize that here today.
Absolutely, and a good look here as we've got some great onboard shots for you as this race unfolds. And one of the things we talked about right at the very top of the show about the tire warmers, and that's why the cars are leaving the pits in a little bit different fashion. At the start of the race here, where they set up echelon style as we hop on board the number 61, our Ferrari Ferrari, that had that great win yesterday, but tire warmers have really changed things up a little bit. Alvaro Arendt said in an interview earlier, he said it was amazing. By the time I got to the start of the S's, I realized I've got grip.
Yeah, and that really changes your philosophy on terms of when you're going to pit within that 10-minute window that happens between 40 and 50 minutes into this race. I mean, when my mindset was with the amount of grip that you have here, you maybe want to do the undercut, which means get those fresh tires on, immediately out on fresh, warm rubber, which should be better than someone staying out on used rubber. But the tire degradation was so low yesterday, I think that forced the hand of Capex to not do that because Serra's cutting laps as fast as he'd seen throughout the whole race. Their concern was by your co-driver getting in and getting into a rhythm, would Serra's in-laps be quicker than the outlaps for a new, fresh driver? Forget the tire situation.
Yeah, whenever you make a change like that, it just ripples through, and the dominoes fall in very different ways, and that certainly keeps everybody on their toes here as we are watching this field as they are working their way around. And we are getting ready for the start here at Watkins Glen for this 10th round of the championship. Lights out on the safety car. We are ready to go racing for Blancpain GT World Challenge America at the Glen, presented by CrowdStrike. 10th round of the championship as we have basically this and 4 more to go. It is championship time, and that puts all the pressure right now on the Bentley team as that our Ferry team is executing to perfection. Field working its way through the final turn, paired up beautifully, watching for the green flag. Tony Vielander, and up on his shoulder, Maxime Soulet. We're green, and what a move by Soulet, and immediately Cal squeezes over, and look at Cameron trying to work around the outside. Vielander thinking about a late move. He got parked. Watch for Cameron around the outside.
Yeah, I don't think he can quite make the move stick. Now he's under pressure. Look at this. That's Marcelli down to the inside as Olsen is trying to make some moves as well, right behind that Acura pairing. Marcelli just trying to make the move. I don't think he can make it stick.
I don't think so. It looked as though, yep, Cameron able to squeeze by and pick up that 3rd spot. Marcelli, though, getting a nice run, but he's under pressure from Dial. And Dial, that 3rd place starting spot has evaporated. He's dropped back 4 or 5 spots, Cal.
Yeah, he's got bullied back in the order there. You see that there, the green and Mercedes AMG. Ryan Dial right there from the pole, the number 63 machine. He was so pleased after the qualifying run to get that Pro-Am pole and line up 3rd overall, but did not get the jump that he was looking for.
He's got trapped at the wrong spot, I think, as we hop on board now with Tony Vielander, heading down for the first time into the toe of the boot. big compression here, lots of grip. You can pick up the throttle earlier than you might expect, but boy, what a start by Soule. Drops that left, running as wide as you possibly can.
That was a big moment there. He had to gather the car back up. Fortunately, Tony was not close enough to make contact. He makes the move down to the inside. He's up and over the curb. He's turned him. Where is Cameron? Can Cameron get the lead right here? They climb the hill.
Oh.
Will there be a penalty on that one? Tony really aggressive up and on the curb, and he turns the competitor. He hangs on to the lead. Cameron was not close enough to make the move.
Yeah, and look, is that smoke I'm seeing coming from Tony's car? There may be a little bit of damage.
I think that might be oil drive from an incident and from an earlier race here today.
I hope that's what it is for sure. Meanwhile, Cameron, opportunistic at the start, sits in the second overall spot with Marcelli third and Dennis Olsen in fourth. So Pro-Am cars second, third, fourth, and actually then it is Scott Hargrove in the number 58 Porsche. As we hop on board, he's going after his teammate here. Hargrove down to the inside. And Dennis Olsen, is he going to let him go or is he going to fight him? They're still side by side. Coming up through the S's. Should give Hargrove the inside, Cal.
Yeah, well, they need to give each other a little bit of racing room. Tire temperatures are certainly there with the tire warmers that are in place here today. But look at him coming back at him. Hargrove has the inside line. Who's the bravest on the brakes?
Well, Hargrove out-deeped him at that point. And at that point, Olsen wisely backing off here. And behind him now sits the number 9 of Andy Soucek.
He looked like he got a great start initially, but had nowhere to go with it. Suddenly the road was blocked as they made that run down into the first turn. Getting back to Wielander here on the move that he tried to make on Maxime Soule. Remember, Soule dropped the wheels as he exited this corner last go-around. And I think Wielander thought this is the time to pounce, but it's a very aggressive move.
Yeah, it was very late down into, well, this turn right here into the heel. As we watch the rest of the field coming through, you see the number 9 entry we talked about Soucek. Now has moved up, sits in the spot. Now let's go back and watch this one, Cal.
Well, Soule suddenly moves back online, and Tony thinks, no problem, I'll just bury it in on the brakes. He gets up and over the curb, nowhere to go with it. Just wasn't enough room there. Thought Cameron was going to get the run on the climb up to the hill. He gets his nose in front, and now you see another spin there a little bit further back in the pack. I think that's Anthony Lazzaro.
Yeah, Anthony Lazzaro and Shirazaki in the number 96 Turner entry. The two of the AM cars having a bit of a moment. I think they were able to continue, although have lost a lot of room. Yep, there comes Lazzaro. As we go back here, and the question is just what kind of shape is Soule in that number 3 Bentley right now.
Incident is under review between Soule and Tony Wielander as Wielander now stretches that lead. He's got to think about if there's any kind of penalty. He's got to get the hammer down and try and create a bit of a gap here. Everyone chasing him right now is not in the same class. They are Pro-Am cars right behind him of Dane Cameron and then Kyle Marcelli. First next pro car is Scott Hargrove. A nice first lap for him up to 4th.
And the issue, of course, is everybody who's behind Wielander right now that are pro cars, they get scored on the overall. So Hargrove would be second in pro, but that's 4th place points. So that just puts it into a bit of perspective here. And you're right for Wielander. If by chance he should get some kind of a drive-through penalty, the bigger the lead he has when he ducks into the pits, the less bad it is, if you will, when he comes out the other side.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, though. It's going to be a big hole that he's going to have dug himself if he does get that penalty. Just driving down pit lane at 50 kilometers an hour will cost you 30 seconds to the field.
Well, race control quickly looks at it and decides no further action. I'm sure that'll have the Bentley boys a little bit up in arms, but for Wielander, a big sigh of relief going through the R Ferry pit as we watch this great battle between Cameron and Marcelli in the 2 Acuras right now running 2nd and 3rd overall, but 1-2 in Pro-Am.
Another look at that incident between Wielander and Soule there. On board here with Tony Wielander. He sees the gap, he plies it down to the inside. And I think the stewards are just saying, you know what, Soule could have given it a little bit of racing room. Tony was committed there. He got up on the curb, had nowhere to go. There you can see Cameron there. He nearly clears Tony Wielander. Wielander says, no way. He takes off in that Ferrari. He's got great pace here. But he will be breathing, and the team will be breathing a big sigh of relief, Greg. Our championship leaders, the Bentleys are now buried mid-pack and at the tail end for Maxime Soule.
And certainly Wielander always has great pace, but by his own admission, you heard it in the open. A little extra motivation to find pace because of the pace of his co-driver this weekend, Daniel Serra, who will be bringing this one home as we hop on board with Canada's Scott Hargrove.
He's down the chute into turn 6. Massive grip here at this racetrack. Watkins Glen was repaved a few years ago. They did a fantastic job. It's beautifully smooth. You can run the car low to the deck. Just pick up massive grip. You can see how early they can apply the throttle application through the toe of the boot. You crest this little hill, and we've seen so much action in this turn 8, over the last couple of days.
As Cal said, or as we often heard Pat Long say in that Porsche track lap, he's a last of the late breakers down in turn 8 because there's tons of runoff. Meanwhile, as Wielander easing away, let's get down to pit lane and Ryan.
Well, when it was announced that there was no further action that was going to be taken, the Arferi crew had a big round of applause. Enrico Diano is the team manager. From what you saw, that was the right call?
I think so, yeah. I mean, the applause was for relief. We would have hated to get a penalty. Of course, we don't try and go and have contact with competitors. We prefer to pass cleanly, but Tony radioed in before we even knew what happened and said he got the door closed on him. He was on the inside. He wasn't left any room, and the contact was inevitable.
Was there any damage to the car in the contact?
From looking at it, I don't think so. The driver hasn't reported anything, so we think we'll be all right.
Going back to what you guys did yesterday, race 1, the pit stop is what put you guys out in front. How proud are you as team manager of what your boys did over the wall?
Very proud, very proud. It's something we keep improving on. We know it's been a bit of a weak spot all season. The Bentley guys, I got to hand it to them. They do a great job. Our main gunman fell ill coming into the weekend. He spent all night with the flu, and of course that affected him. So we put in one of our other crew members in his place, and I got to say, Roberto really came up to speed fast, and he's doing a great job. And I think that was one of our best stops all season.
Oh, glad to see that. Best of luck the rest of the way. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, apt words there that give you a real feel for, yes, the drivers get a lot of the accolades, but it is truly a team sport. And that level of preparation, have somebody else that can step in and do it, that's how you win races. That's what they did yesterday. Today's coverage is brought to you in partnership with CrowdStrike and with Mercedes-AMG. So Wielander continues to hold that margin. We'll see what it is now, up to 2 seconds clear of Cameron, then Marcelli, then Hargrove, and the rest of the pack. And there's Dial. And then you go back and you find Wolf Hensler sitting right now in the 8th spot overall in the 24 Allegra Porsche. And there is the recovering number 3 of Maxime Soulet. He's got to be a little bit frustrated. Obviously, yes, he ran wide coming out of the toe of the boot, but boy, what a start he laid on.
Yeah, he really did. He has the fastest lap of the race at a 45.5, so the car does not seem to be damaged, but they got to work some strategy magic. They really need a yellow here, Greg, to get them back in the game. They're third in the points, a long way back from the leaders after yesterday's win for Arferi. Soulet and Baptista, 48 points out of the lead. There's only 125 points on the table, including today's race.
And there's also keep in mind the manufacturer points to think about, which is incredibly important, obviously. And also within this championship, they have a teams championship that Bentley leads, and that got shrunk just a little bit as well yesterday based on team finishes, etc. So this is a big one for them to be able to fight back. And you're right, he's got a lot of ground to make up right now. And he's chasing number 7 at Martin Fuentes, who is leading in the AM category right now.
Just to rethink through that incident which happened right in this corners here, Maxime dropped the wheel coming out of turn 7. The toe sort of like went to the right to protect, then opened it back up. I think Tony then saw the opportunity, dove down the inside, and I think if Maxime had it to do over again, you can run side by side through there, and then you have the inside line like Tony did effectively on Dane Cameron, and you get the position back. So I think he'd love a do-over on that move.
Well, that lap, Wielander finding, setting the fast lap of the race, Cal, and finding another 1/10 on Cameron, and stretches that margin just a little bit.
Remember yesterday, though, Dane Cameron, he said the car is really good on the long green flag run. They don't find the burst in speed on fresh rubber in qualifying, but it just didn't fall off. He's running his fastest laps right at the end. He had the most consistent and fastest average of all of the finishing drivers yesterday. So let's see what happens at the end of this 40-minute, 50-minute stint that they put in today.
And watching this battle right here is Kyle Marcelli. Kyle has been very much on form this year. Overall pole at one of the races earlier in the season. And sitting in a solid third right now. Although he's got the 58 of Scott Hargrove starting to close that up just a little bit here. As this is continuing, there's a look at the number 9 of Soucek in the Bentley and Ryan Dial in the Mercedes. Number 3 in the hands of Maxime Soulet, trying to recover from the spin down at turn 8. Certainly setting some speed right after Wielander set fast lap just a lap ago. Soulet resets it at a 1:45.5. And Ryan Marine, even though this car has lost a lot of track position, it is fast.
That is certainly the bright side. Thomas Blum is the strategist for K-Pax Racing. The bad news is Maxime's been sent back down the order a little bit, but the good news is he's been fast. Can he recover with a little bit of luck and some yellows?
I mean, it's going to be very difficult. We're obviously very disappointed. We respect the stewards, respect the race director. We saw it differently. Honestly, we're more disappointed with Wielander and the R Ferry guys. Anybody watches yesterday's race, Rodrigo had a great start, was in a similar position to make a move. Could have turned the Ferrari around if he had stuck his nose in like Wielander did to us. I mean, he went up over the curb and turned us around. I mean, pretty much game over championship-wise. And, you know, I mean, it's just, I mean, we're just very disappointed. Again, if that's the way the R Ferry guys who are leading the championship want to race us, and we're going to race them like that today, Road American at Vegas. We don't want to race that way, but that's the way it's going to be.
As Maxime,
we'll do our best. Yeah, I mean, he's quick. It's just, you know, it's going to be really difficult to get anywhere with him. But we'll do our best. And when, you know, he's fast, and Rodrigo get in, he's fast. And we're obviously going to concentrate on the 9 car and get him up as far as we can get as well.
Those are the thoughts of Thomas Blum, guys.
It is a championship change. It's a big moment because if suddenly Wielander gets that penalty, he'd be at the back of the pack. Yep. And then it's all about what sort of gain can the 9 car in the hands of Soucek right now make, who are the nearest pursuer in this championship chase.
And there we have the rest of the pack flowing through here. You're taking a look at it. There is the number 9 of Soucek. We'll be turning over to Alvaro Arendt. But again, they are in a position right now back in the pack just a little bit, sitting in the 6th spot. It may not be 6th in the pro category, but again, you get points based on overall if you run pro. And they've got, he needs to get through 3 quick Pro-Am cars and another pro car to keep moving his way up just a little bit here. Not easy to do. And speaking of one of the pro cars here, as we look at Tony Wielander, I just want to point out the number 58 of Hargrove. There's something in the water here for the guys in that 58 portion, these opening laps. Remember yesterday, Pat Long, 2 spots in the opening laps. Hargrove today up 4 spots in the opening lap. They just get on it in a hurry.
They really do. And Pat Long's first lap yesterday was mega, and Scott Hargrove, you know, he had a bit of a drought going. They finally got that big victory at Sonoma in the last event of our championship this year. I think that's given him a lot of confidence in this race car. And I think he and Pat are a superb combination for the Wright Motorsports team. As he sits there in that 4th position, trying to chase down the 2 Acuras right in front of him.
That's a good point. In Hargrove, you've got the youth and exuberance, and Long, you've got the experience and racecraft, and both of them have speed in large handfuls.
Yeah, and Scott Hargrove said, I just really learned a lot in how Pat disciplines himself through a race weekend and how he approaches it. It's not all about being the quickest in every session. It's about approaching it for the end game. How quick will you be on the long run? Obviously, you need to be quick in qualifying. Track position is so important with this GT3 machinery. They don't follow that well. There's a lot of aero aid given to the cars, and if you're in close proximity, it takes away a little bit of that downforce.
Here's a good look at Scott Hargrove as he wheels that Porsche Consulting machine up through turn number 9.
Marcelli is inching closer to Cameron right now. Second of the Acura looks superb right now. He fell off the pace a little bit towards the end of the run yesterday. Dennis Olsen got by him for position and second on the podium.
And the guy that he's closing in on just a little bit would be Dane Cameron, who's co-driver, who has been a real revelation since he stepped into the seat a race ago, is Mr. Hedlund, right?
Yeah, Mike Hedlund's been dynamic in this Acura NSX GT3 since you got in for the first time at Sonoma. That's carried over here to Watkins Glen as well. But how about the start your teammate had to this race? Dane was really on a flyer there.
Yeah, it was amazing. Really good start in the first corner, stayed out of trouble. Got a run on the Mercedes, got around him, and then there was a little bit of a coming together. I didn't see the replay, but there was a coming together ahead of him, and he was able to get around the Bentley. So that's a bummer for them, but good for us, and hopefully we can just stay out of trouble, and hopefully I can bring it home later.
If this holds, the running order as it is now, you'll be hopping in overall podium contention. That's got to be really fun for you to get to mix it up with some of the best GT drivers in the world.
Yeah, for sure. At Sonoma, we were able to mix it up a little bit, but I am looking forward to it here. It's a little bit different when you get in the car, when it's in a strong position. But we'll see. I'll do my best like always, and we'll see what we can do. But really, we want to win Pro-Am.
How is it different when you get in a strong position rather than the alternative?
Before you get in the car, it's a little more stressful because you know you have a chance for an overall podium. But once you get in the car, it's all automatic. I mean, it's always the same when you leave pit lane. You just do your best, and if someone's in front of you, you pass them, and if someone's behind you, you try not to get past.
Sounds like a plan. Simple, but effective, that's for sure. Mike Hedlund.
Thank you.
Yeah, simple, effective, but oftentimes difficult to execute, and it works. But you were looking at points a little bit earlier, and in the Pro-Am division, even though Real Time missed the first doubleheader at Circuit of the Americas, they've got a shot at this title, don't they?
Well, there's 5 rounds to go, and Dane Cameron with another victory yesterday. He split his time with Brett Curtis and Mike Hedlund, of course, during the course of this championship season, so he's not tied with anyone in the same car. He's 28 points behind Baca and Marcelli. There's 5 rounds to go, so if he can gain 6 points a race, his game on in the championship. He gained 10 on Marcelli yesterday. I think that's why you're seeing Marcelli really focused right now. He doesn't want to see that gap dwindle any further.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Including today's race, those 5 rounds, it's what, 125 points on the table. When you're talking about 28 points, that puts it into some perspective. Here's a look at Martin Fuentes in the Hublot Alpha Prime, and this week in the Ferrari of Fort Lauderdale. Ferrari that he's sharing with Baptista, who is making his debut in the championship, moving over from Ferrari Challenge North America, and the Copa Shell point leader in that category. So they're doing another very nice job. Anthony Lazzaro is in the car you see just coming behind him. That is the 111 Ferrari that he shares with Chris Cagnazzi, who put that car on the pole for the M Class yesterday. Hop on board with Martin.
What a superb run he's been having over the last couple of years. 16 of the last 17 races he's been to victory lane. He's definitely in for a shot for the Havana Cup, which rewards anyone who sweeps 5 weekends, including the season finale at Vegas. Then you have to have 7 poles and 7 fast laps to go along with it in class. And I believe Martin is still in the game for that. It's a nice reward at the end of the day. What a place to enjoy the reward, Vegas. Can you imagine the party there?
Oh, boy, yeah. I don't think it'll be just coffee he loves flowing for that one. And it'll be well earned indeed. You know, we have seen Martin when the car's right and he is on, and we have seen him put in some absolutely stunning laps. We've seen him qualify almost up in the top 5 overall of some races. He's a talent.
So passionate.
Yeah.
Great charisma. Lovely to have him in our paddock. He can wheel it, I tell you. He's put in some performances over the years that have kind of shamed some of the Ferrari factory drivers, to be honest with you.
In the exuberance department, he may have met his match in Marquesa this weekend, but what a fun pair they are, that's for sure. And right now, continuing to lead this category with Lazzaro a ways back, not a huge amount back, a couple of seconds back. And they're running fairly close times. There's a look at that car from the high camera, and there is Lazzaro just coming into frame behind him. Nice to have Anthony Lazzaro back in a Ferrari and racing it. We jump up to yet another Ferrari, this one at the sharp end of the entire field. Vilander
has stretched that gap out to 3.1 seconds, but we talked about Dane Cameron's long run pace. He just set his fastest lap of the race. Not a lot quicker than Marcelli, but he's now down to a 45.6. Vilander's fastest lap is a 45.4. This is exactly what we saw yesterday. The real-time racing team did a nice test, 2-day test up at Road America. Worked with the setups a little bit, found a bit better sweet spot with this car. They also worked really hard on their pit stops in this long break that we've had since the last rounds at Sonoma. And they executed almost the perfect stop yesterday, Greg, in the 64-second range. If they can do the same today, that can be a game changer. They gained about 10 seconds over the Marcelli car. A little bobble there as Dane jumps on the gas coming off that very slow turn 9.
You bring up a good point about the pit stops. You know, there are some teams racing in this championship that definitely have experience with pit stops that involve tire changing and refueling. Up until this year, Real-Time Racing has spent most of their career running in Pirelli World Challenge, which didn't have pit stops. You know, early days they did, and certainly they had some experience with it. So this was a team that had to make some pretty big changes and really work on those stops. But a team like Real-Time, they get it done.
They do. It's a really professional organization led by P.D. Gallingham and Nathan Bonneau. They do an awesome job, and they realized they were just leaving a little bit on the table, and they recognize how competitive this class is. If they want to chase that championship with Dane Cameron, they need to execute at every level, and they certainly did it yesterday.
We should point out now, as we're watching Soule coming up on the back of Colin Braun in the 04 CrowdStrike DXDT Mercedes, and Soule goes right on by. Colin tucks in behind him. Behind those two is Billy Johnson and the number 22 InSync Healthcare Solutions Allegra Porsche, and that car has been plagued by some issues throughout qualifying and the race that unfolded yesterday, and that had them way back in the order. The car looks to be putting in some decent lap times, but they're definitely behind the 8 ball just a little bit, and Billy wheeling it as quickly as he can. But Maxime Soule trying to recover from what has unfolded and is knocking on the door of getting back into the top 10. Boy, he flows some beautiful speed through this section. You really like the flow and rhythm of this part of the track.
It's awesome, particularly with the grip that this racetrack provides and the Pirelli P0s. It's high downforce, high commitment. You're definitely committed around this racetrack these days. Kyle Marcelli is not going away. He just laid down a 45.4, which is only marginally slower than Soule's fastest lap of the race by a couple of hundred. So Marcelli has pace in that second Acura, currently running 3rd overall, 2nd in class. The race's age group led by John Marocchi have done a superb job jumping up to this GT3 formula. Immediately on the pace, immediate success. It's been nice to see. It's a good story for the year.
Yeah, it really is, and it's kind of interesting and nice to have that all-Canadian driver pairing. Martin Barkey, we've been fortunate to announce him in some other series, and certainly in the GTS category of this championship in Pirelli World Challenge competition for a lot of years. And you know, he's certainly got some speed, and when he's on, he's really fast. And he has stepped his game up this year. There's no question of that. And you're right, Marcelli is definitely closing in a bit on Dane Cameron right now. And how much of that might be Dane also just trying to manage things a little bit, you know, not worrying about Vilander out there and just trying to keep tire under the car. So he's got to get another 20 minutes on his tire.
I spoke to him last night, and he said a similar thing happened during the beginning of the stint yesterday. He just said the car felt a little bit heavy on relatively full tanks, or the most fuel load that you're going to have. And he said, I just felt I was going to abuse the tires by trying to push it any harder. So we settled in, then let's let the weight burn off a little bit with the fuel burn. And then the car came into a sweet spot. So he's a smart driver. He said he was going to go for it at the start today, see how the first corner played out. I think he was focused on trying to get around Dial, and he certainly did that and some more.
Let's see now, it looks like Cameron in that last sequence of corners was able to open it up just a little bit. And yeah, it's almost identical lap times there, wasn't it? So
they're very evenly matched, and you have to wonder as car gets ever closer, maybe that last little bit, those last few car lengths is where you start to pick up more of that aero wash. So he's probably picking up a little bit of a draft effect in terms of helping him down the straightaways, which maybe has hurting him through some of these high downforce corners.
Just whistling down after that climb up through the S's. Fastest part of the track, as Pat Long said, over 160 miles an hour, so they are booking it through here. And then down through the outer loop of the carousel and heading toward the boot. Vilander continues to build that margin, and it's now stabilized at around 3 seconds. Cameron second overall, leading in Pro-Am, and Kyle Marcelli right there third in that MBRP Performance Exhaust Racer's Edge Acura. And has actually found some pace a little bit and has trimmed that margin to Cameron just a smidge. And Ryan, you got to think that John Meraki, as he has been all season long, has got to be extremely pleased.
Yeah, I was just talking to him a moment ago off the air. He said, we are pretty happy right now. Things can change. It is a long race, but it's off to a good start.
Yeah, it's definitely off to a good start. Kyle's running really quick right now. We're happy with where we are. It's a 90-minute race, so sitting where we are right now is fine. We don't need to take any unnecessary chances. No, things are great right now.
And the focus is purely on the Pro-Am class, or is that temptation of an overall podium something that has your interest?
Well, I'm a racer, and I always want to win. But you have to look at the big picture, and you have to recognize as much as you want to win, you can't take an unnecessary chance. If you have a chance, take it, but not an unnecessary one.
We were talking a bit about yesterday, and there was a small snafu during the pit stop and during the driver change. Is that something that was kind of fluky, or is it something you can clean up? Where does that stand?
No, it's a funny story how it's important not to change things. Well, the drivers do their own change, and among them they decided to change a sequence of something they do, and they had never practiced it, and they changed it, and of course it ended up causing a problem. And then, so we've changed that back, and lesson learned there. But yeah, just a simple little change created a problem.
Hey, thanks as always.
Yeah, thank you.
You know, they learned that lesson of how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, practice, practice. You don't practice something that has, you know, change in what has become road for you. That often can happen here, but doing a really solid job. I just want to point out that even though he's still down the order a lot, Maxime Suleka, he just uncorked a 145.1.
He's flying. It's such a shame because if he could have maintained the lead and not had the little bobble and then the incident with Tony, he could be taken off in the lead right now. And remember last year in that number 3 car, Baptista, his teammate, absolutely dominated the 2 sprint races here. So it's a different car this year with the new gen Bentley, but nonetheless, Capex have the secret to the setups around this racetrack, but they do not have the track position now. And importantly, the team that they're chasing has the lead.
Yeah, that's the big story here as we ride on board with Scott Hargrove, sitting 4th overall right now in that Porsche Consulting, Wright Motorsports Porsche, heading down into turn 1. Let's watch him up through this corner and through the S's.
Absolutely wide open, that flat 6 Porsche engine just whistling here. We'll grab top gear. Using those curves through the inner loop. You see some of the drivers kind of missed that 3rd one, that 2nd left. Kind of just straighten out a little bit. I think by trying to get to that 2nd left, you compromise your speed through the 1st sector of the inner loop there. Cameron is actually closing in on the leader a little bit. The gap is now down to 2.4. It's just marginally over 3 seconds at one stage. Now there's traffic up ahead as well for the leaders.
It just really caught my eye. You wonder how quick that inner loop, that's a chicane in essence, how quick that is. He ran that in 4th gear. He just went down 2 gears from flat chat. That's impressively fast through that section of track. Vilander coming up on some traffic now as well. During that little wide there.
Hargrove, little mistake. We saw that yesterday. Remember we went on board with Pat Long yesterday. Had a little bit of a moment in one of the corners, like there was suddenly as the fuel was going away, started to loosen up the rear under braking. I think what he needs to do is maybe move the brake bars towards the front a little bit for that braking scenario. He had to catch it, straighten his hand, get off the brakes. And that has allowed Olsen to close in a little bit.
Yeah, and yeah, absolutely. And he's dropped off that bit now from Kyle Marcelli as they come by here. The other thing from that Porsche track preview that caught my eye about running up through the S's when Pat said, oh, you want the wheel as open as possible on that run up there because you're climbing. It's flat out climb, and any unnecessary turn in that wheel scrubs momentum. I mean, they are so tuned to that.
They really are. You just want light hands. You just don't want to get any scrub. You just want to, obviously, you don't want to run wide to do that, but you got to keep it somewhat on line, but just let the car of its head a little bit. A little like climbing the hill at Limebrook. You just have to have very light hands, light pressure on the wheel.
And just looking at the scoring right now, Vilander up by now 2.2 seconds over Cameron, but the bigger story is Marcelli has trimmed that down to 3/4 of a second adrift of Cameron right now. And with that little bobble by Hargrove, Olsen is about a half second behind, so there's some good stuff starting to build here.
Here's Souček. He'll be ruined that qualifying run that he had here yesterday. Just hasn't been able to really move up the order much. And it's tough. The cars are so competitive. And with the tire warmers now, everyone's going to be out on fresh, hot rubber. It's hard to do the overcut. People are going to probably do the undercut, traffic dependent, and also tire degradation dependent.
Oh, what a nice move there by Shirazaki-san, getting up and out of the way, knowing that the cars coming up behind him are in a battle for overall position here. Just a nice job. Nice to have those guys, he and Takeda, in the championship running with Turner.
An anniversary of sorts. They actually tested with Turner here for the very first time before they competed. Now they're going to complete the rest of the championship run at CTMP, running here. We'll also run at Road America and Vegas, hopefully.
Look here on Souček as he works through. Watching the rest of the field come through, and there in the background you can see the second of the Bentleys, that of Maxime Soulet, who's just laying down some laps right now, has fought his way back up into the top 10.
Just under 8 minutes before the pit stop window opens. He's going to want to try and get through some of that traffic up ahead of him. Certainly quicker than everyone right now. He still has the fastest lap of the race. However, Tony Vilander has responded to the pressure from the two Acuras and just laid down his fastest lap of the race, but 45.25, just marginally slower than Soulet's best of the day.
And if you look at the scoring, the last lap, Soulet running about a half second quicker or faster than the next 5 cars in front of him at this stage.
This will be a telltale sign as to how you can deal with traffic. He's got a much faster car, but suddenly he's going to have that aero wash where the air is taken off the front nose of that Bentley and the dive planes. The car will not be as effective as it was in clean air.
He's coming up on the back of Mark Miller in the Gradient Racing number 5.
If he can't deal with this traffic effectively, they may do the undercut and try and bring him in, throw some fresh Pirelli P0s for Rodrigo Baptista, and just try and find some clean air. A lot of the key is where you come out after that 64-second minimum stop time. How do you cycle back out? You don't want to be in a bundle of traffic, so they'll maybe delay things if that was the case. But I think rather than trying to deal with this traffic, get by him, get him in, get Baptista behind the wheel and let him go to work.
You were talking yesterday about the fact that the strategists on top of the box have computer programs that can give you projections. I think you put it almost creates a ghost car to show you where they might come out at any given time in a stop.
That's correct. But things
cool.
can change. A lot of things can happen. You can anticipate other cars coming in. They don't come in. You can't anticipate things like George Kurtz coming in right in front of Alvaro Perrin. He's not coming in at the same speed. And suddenly, if they'd known that, they wouldn't have taken that opportunity. Obviously, they would have delayed.
Absolutely. Well, Vilander responding and has stretched that margin out to over 2.5 seconds. Today's coverage is brought to you in partnership with Optima Battery, with Bentley, and with Porsche. Here is Tony as he works up through the toe one more time. And just watching here, Soulet now is within a second of Miller. So as you said, it's really going to come down to can he get through some of this? Keep an eye on that. But Vilander, I think, is just managing this race masterfully right now.
Yeah, he's had to be on his toes as Cameron continues to drop his best. He just ran a 45.3, and he's just in the shadows there. He's only 2.7 seconds back. And I tell you what, this would be, I mean, our ferry stop yesterday was better than the K-Pax, but it wasn't on the money. I think they were like 66, 67 seconds.
Yep.
So there was like a 3-second delta there. You could suddenly find Mike Hedlund duking it out with Daniel Serra. If you saw similar pit stops to yesterday with Dane Cameron keeping the pressure on and keeping the gap the way it is.
That's a really good point. Selly right there as well. He is, every time Cameron opens that margin up, which he's just done a little bit, is it almost out to a second. As you said, Cameron turning that really quick lap.
Well, I think there's a sweet spot. I mean, I may be reading too much into this, but when Cameron does a fast lap and opens up the gap, it's like it gives clean air to Marcelli's car, and he's able to do a quick lap.
That makes sense.
So it seems like once you get into that half-second range, maybe the car is not as effective. It goes out to about a second, then you can run your pace.
Well, it's all about that aero wash and the effect it has on the nose of these cars. And you get close like that, the nose loses grip. What happens? The front tires start to push a little bit. You start to overheat them. You've got to back off. It's just one of the nuances you have to deal with here in GT3 racing. They're closing in on that pit window coming open here. Watching Hargrove. Continues to fend off the very rapid young man, Dennis Olsen.
Just the level that we have in this series. You look at the drivers in this, throughout the whole field actually, but certainly the pros here, just the performances that they're put in, there's no let up. They just execute every lap. They're maximizing, they're trimming as the weight comes off with the fuel load burn. They're going quicker and quicker. The Pirelli P0s just doesn't seem to have any tire degradation here this weekend. The cars are getting quicker and quicker through the stint.
Gotta love that as a driver, as the fuel burns off and the tires stay with you. You can feel that little bit of a change. You can push that much harder, and you just keep ripping off faster and faster laps. That's what brings a big smile to the face of the really good drivers who can sense it at that level. You seem to be enjoying that here at the Glen. Closing in on the pit window opening. Now, it isn't a mandatory you've got to come in when it opens. You just got to get that pit stop in and done within that 10-minute window. And with tire warmers now, and with, you've talked about it, the lack of tire degradation that this track offers up, there's lots of different strategy to be considering here as we approach that window, isn't it?
Well, I've just been watching Maxime Soulet. We talked about him having the fastest lap of the race and cutting fast laps. Suddenly he's got close to Mark Miller, and he's running 46s. He just dipped into a 45.90 on that very last lap, but that has stymied his attack, so I have to wonder whether they'll dive him in as soon as this pit window opens.
Now, he did just get past Miller. That is Soulet's car right out front of Miller's window here in the Unit Nutrition Gradient Acura. So now Soulet has got to figure out a way to get through on Wolf Hensler.
But if they can factor in that Baptista can get in, get out, be in clean air, run fast laps, they'll be better than Soulet dealing with traffic right now.
Yep.
Can't come in this lap, but the next time around, he should be able to hit pit lane.
Meanwhile, there's Andy Soucek, continues to just sit there in that 6th spot. Is running decent laps, but hasn't been able to really do much with Olsen or Hargrove in front of him at this stage.
Not the day or the weekend for that matter they were hoping for, with Brent snagging that early pole yesterday morning, grabbing the early lead. Everything was looking sweet. Suddenly it's just got more difficult for them.
All right. Now this is a replay here. You're riding with Miller here, and there goes Soulet. That's into the inner loop. He's got that inside run.
Just a monster draft down the back straightaway. Now he's putting the pressure on Hensler.
Trying to do the same thing here. See if he can get the move done. Now this is for overall position, and Hensler, he's not going to go quietly, that's for sure. Soulet pops to the outside. Hensler feints over just a little bit. But Soulet able to carry a little bit more speed, Cal.
He's a man on a mission right now.
Isn't he?
That may change things. That may change. I think if they got stuck behind Hensler, they might have dove in. Now he's got a little bit of clean air in front of him and still running fast lap times.
Yeah, next car up the road is the Mercedes, the Usulco Security National Mortgage entry of Dial, and that's about 5 seconds up the road at this stage. And Dial has quietly done a nice job of recovering from that start where he plummeted a little bit. Not where he'd like to be, of course, but at least he's up now, sitting in the 7th spot, 4th in the Pro-Am category.
Look at the pace of the Acras at the end of the stint. Marcelli just went fastest with 45.14. Cameron 45.19. They're the fastest cars on the racetrack, and closing in on Tony Wieland as we get towards that pit window now being open.
All right, so far no takers. Why would you? I mean, if you're running that fast a lap at this stage and you're not being balked anywhere.
Well, typically you got tired decks, you got to think, get a guy in of equal ability, put him in there on fresh, hot tires, he'd be quicker. Obviously with the Pro-Am class, you're going to try and keep those pros in as long as you can. Right. You'd have to believe that Cameron and certainly Marcelli will stay in towards the end of the pit window, and when it's about to close, for Vilander, he's got a very fast teammate, but they've got to factor in as well. Those guys who are chasing them, unless you have the perfect stop, Serra's going to suddenly be in traffic, and they take the opportunity to pit Soule.
So in he comes, and you would have thought now with that clear track in front of him, they may have left him out, but they may have also looked at it and said, if we pit him now, he'll come out in clear track and let Baptista go after it with fresh, hot tires.
The other factor is there could always be a yellow, an incident on the racetrack, which really scrambles things in terms of the teams that have pitted and those who haven't. Ryan?
So it will be Maxime Soule getting out, Rodrigo Baptista getting into the number 3 Bentley. Soule had done a nice job to recover back up inside the top 10 and to 9th, which is a points-paying position. That's important for them as they continue to look at their own championship fight. Now we'll see what Rodrigo Baptista can do. A winner here at Watkins Glen last year in the previous generation Bentley. Pretty clean stop for the K-Pax crew, and there goes Rodrigo, able to beat the 24 Porsche out.
Yeah, that was pretty darn good, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And bettered, though, by the Allegra team.
Yeah, they're both really tight. Of course, you got that Joker second to work with. Basically, you have 1 second to play with on either day. You can't have it both days, but if you miss it by a few tenths, you got a second to play with. Tony Vilander continues to stay out.
Yep. That number 3 stop, 64.3 seconds, but Hensler to hold to 64.1.
Gap at the front is only 2 seconds. This Acura NSX has been really, really strong here today.
Yes, it has.
Looks like the racetrack has come to them a little bit. Yesterday they had fast laps, but were about 4 to 5 tenths off the fastest laps of the race. Now they're cutting the fast laps as the second Bentley hits pit lane.
Alvaro Parent will be waiting as that car comes in, hits its marks.
A little bit busy with that right-hand drive Bentley. You've got the refueling nozzle going in. Remember, we had that incident earlier this year. There was a flash fire where the refuel was bumped. Obviously worked on eliminating that possibility or trying to make it as simple as possible. Just really congested there around the driver's door, the refueling and that right rear tire change.
You love that when the car can sit for just a minute before you release it. What's it going to be? 64.6.
I'm surprised that one of those teams didn't play with a Joker second. It was basically leaving 1.6 seconds on the table. It would have been a great one yesterday with the Joker to play with. That could be crucial. Tony Vilander through turn 10. Is he going to hit pit lane this time? Yes, he does. He slows down. Does Cameron stay out?
Let's see, Vilander crosses the beam. The clock starts for his stop. Hargrove is in as well, so yes, Cameron's staying out.
2 Acuras now lead this race overall and in class. A long pit lane here. Feels like you're walking when you've been screaming at 160 miles an hour around this racetrack, 50K.
And here it is, a crucial pit stop in terms of this championship. And watching the stop here as well. There's Long, the distinctive green helmet. Ryan?
The Arferi crew springing into action. They probably won this race for Daniel Serra and Tony Vilander yesterday in race number 1 with their quick stop, able to get the car out ahead of the K-Pax crew, but a hang up here on the right rear. They're not going to hold him, so that means it was probably a little bit behind. Nevertheless, Enrico Diano gives him a nice round of applause. We'll see. You guys tell me what was on the clock.
67 flat, so 3 seconds left on the table there. I think I may have been a little bit slower than yesterday. But that 3 seconds, that was about the gap. So if real time could nail it, you could suddenly find Mike Hedlund jumps out just in front of Daniel Serra on this ultimate cycle of pit stops.
And Ryan, for the 58 Wright Porsche, they had a good one, a 64.8. So that'll be a strong one for them and put them in some good position. And these guys are going to push the envelope here, aren't they? As you said, the two fast pros in the car, Cal, they're going to stay out at least this lap. Cameron over Marcelli is second.
Yeah, mid-45s, about 4/10 off their best. There's still really strong pace here. He might pit him on the next lap as Cameron clears the crowd strike car as they go up the S's. Now George Kurtz behind the wheel. Look at that. How critical is that? Marcelli gets balked there.
Yep.
Big factor here. If I was real time, I'd be reacting, maybe bringing Dane in on this lap. They're in good shape here. They've got a nice gap.
And Dennis Olsen flashing the lights. He's seeing what's unfolding. And Dennis had just put down his best lap of the race, 45.3.
That is devastating. I mean, Marcelli has driven such a brilliant race and has just been nip and tuck, a 10th each way, and suddenly you lose probably a second to a second and a half right there just by catching that traffic on his outlap in the wrong place up through the high-speed S's.
And Billy Johnson turning over to Daniel Mora in the 22 Allegra car. They used the Joker, a 63.5 second stop.
That's awesome. That's what I love to see. Use every second there is, every 10th of a second. That all counts.
So Cameron now has a little bit more breathing room. I would suspect we'll see him in, as you've talked about before, if you have a little moment, a caution, a spin, whatever, and you haven't made that stop.
Yeah, you're kind of awfully close if you try and make one more.
Yes.
You could probably just sneak it in. You don't have to have the service completed by 40 minutes to go in the race, but you have to be at least be on pit lane. But if you have a bobble, any sort of issue, what are they going to do? No, they're going to roll.
Out. All right.
They're putting it all on the line. What does Marcelli do? He stays with him.
Wow. And Olsen, though, ducks in. So he will be
crucial last lap.
This is huge.
Going to use every ounce of grip in that Pirelli tire right now.
Boy, and I'll tell you, that Gradient Racing team and that Unit Nutrition entry, as we watched the 91 into the pits, they just have continued to struggle. They had a tough stop yesterday, another tough one today. And they have been so fast on the track. All right, here we go. Olsen getting out. That's Anthony Imperato getting ready to hop on board.
Home track for him. Really impressive weekend for Anthony. Olsen jumps out. I'm sure going into this race, he was hoping for a better start and being a little bit more at the sharper end, but he's did a really solid job. A Porsche young professional in Dennis Olsen.
Oh.
This is crucial. This is what I'm talking about. Suddenly, you dived in, you just can't afford to suddenly get balked in someone's outlap. So they're hoping that Till Bechtolsheimer does not balk Dane Cameron here at all. You can see the gap back to Marcelli. And again, if real-time execute the perfect stop, that could put Hedlund right out there with Daniel Serra. Obviously, Serra's going to have the pace to be able to clear him relatively easily. Pro versus a really strong Pro-Am driver.
I think Dane's losing time. I mean, Till's a good driver, but this is huge. Now Dane has to peel. You can see Marcelli's a lot closer.
Yeah, I think that was one lap too long. It's easy to say, but you know, you just run the risk of anything going wrong. Dane really late there on the brakes, woes it way down, 50 kilometers an hour. And the drivers rehearse that. Those in and out laps are so crucial. You can't afford to just cruise through this in pit entrance. Got to take it right down to the limit.
Fuentes has turned over to Issa. And there we go. Ryan is at the real-time pit.
It's dueling Acuras here on pit lane. Real time will spring into action first. The Racer's Edge crew have just started their pit stop as well. Things looking pretty clean on the driver exchange between Dane Cameron and Mike Hedlund. That's going on now. Just a little bit of a clean of the windshield as well as the fuel goes into that NSX. The driver change looking smooth as well for Racer's Edge as Martin Barkey will be replacing Kyle Marcelli. Actually, now it does seem like there's a bit of a delay there. Remember, we heard from John Baraki that they had a problem yesterday. Dane Cameron's been released. Now we're seeing Martin Barkey released. He did lose that spot on pit lane, or lost some ground, I should say, on pit lane.
There it is, going to be close.
Oh,
I knew it would be.
Look at that. That was a 64 flat stop for Cameron, and the turnover to Hedlund, and Hedlund has the lead. Wow.
Well, he has the track position right now. He probably won't keep it for long, but nonetheless, that's just executing at the highest level. And importantly, they gain a big gap on Martin Baca, who's now taken over the reins of the Racer's Edge Acura.
Big gap, and we've heard from Tony himself how fast Daniel Serra is. The MBRP guys are happy, but they did lose ground.
Yeah, a lot cleaner than yesterday, 65.7.
Yep.
That typically won't hurt you, but when the other team you're chasing is right on the money, it's hard. Now, Serra's pace here will probably be 1 to 2 seconds quicker than Mike Hedlund ultimately. So he's just got to be patient here and think about the big picture of the overall. Hedlund in the lead overall and in class.
Cool story. As he said, you pit from a place where the guy brings it in and you're very well placed, the nerves are up a little bit, but as soon as you drop the hammer and leave pit lane, you just do what you do. A little wide of the apex there, but not enough. And coming up, all right, so a couple of stops that they're reviewing. One of them was, I heard, was the 22. They always do the review to make sure that the timing was right when a pit stop shows up short. But when you got that joker, that's what it works. Hedlund doing a nice job.
He's doing a great job. I tell you what, for the level of experience that he has compared to some of these factory drivers, to jump in this car admittedly on warm tires now and just to be straight into the groove is very impressive.
All right, well, the chase is on. Hedlund hanging on here at the Glen. Oh, Serra looking now to the inside, and Hedlund out deeping him on the brakes into the inner loop.
Yeah, he's just got to make sure he stays focused here, doesn't make a little error in trying to keep that Ferrari behind him. There's no way he can keep Serra back, I don't feel, with his sort of pace here for 36 minutes. Just focus on that Pro-Am win and see if you can stay on the overall podium. Be a beautiful day for the real-time boys.
Well, that's a good point. And in the big picture right now, Hedlund back to Baca. That's about 9 seconds.
This is really helping out Alvaro Brent a little bit because Serra's not running at his true pace. And you can see that number 9 Bentley starting to close in on this Ferrari Motorsport Ferrari, and that is really crucial. The great start for Parent. He got a great outlap. He was in clean air, and there you see the gap. Remember, Soucek was kind of buried, kind of going nowhere in terms of being stymied after a poor qualifying run, and then not able to get around the Porsches. But they've done a beautiful job to get Parent back in the mix here. So Serra, the pressure is on to clear Hedlund. Hedlund needs to understand that. He needs communication from his crew saying that Serra's probably going to be pushing for a gap here pretty quickly. Look for it.
That's true, and I'll tell you, after a problem yesterday, that Capex crew nailed that stop and put Parent right back in play here. I tell you, Hedlund is just doing a superb job. Down through 1. Well, unless I'm a little confused, unless the 22 used their joker yesterday. They just said they're going to get a drive-through for a short stop. But I don't recall them using that yesterday.
In the drivers' meeting, he said they had the 1 second joker to use at some time during the weekend. Look at this, Parent is right there.
Yes, he is.
He is loving this opportunity, and this is a game changer in the championship. They lost 7 points yesterday to the Ferrari team. If suddenly Parent can get around him, maybe they can get that 7-point back.
All right, Hedlund hanging on. Serra looks to the inside, not enough room there. Tucks back in behind once again. Three-car battle for the lead here at Watkins Glen, and one of them, the leader, is a Pro-Am car. Mike Hedlund is doing a stunning job of hanging on at the front, under attack from Daniel Serra. But Cal, maybe the bigger story is that has allowed Arendt to get into attack mode as well.
Just a superb stint here from Alvaro Arendt. I believe he's possibly been the quickest guy here this weekend. He seized the opportunity. Suddenly Serra could not get around that Acura. He's feeling that aero wash from the car in front of him, and that has allowed Alvaro Arendt to close up. He lost 7 points yesterday to the Ferrari. Can he gain them back here today?
And Hedlund continues to hang on. This is just huge what we're seeing. And obviously it's just impressive what Mike Hedlund is doing, the AM component of a Pro-Am team, fending off a Le Mans winner. However, as you said, some of that's down to the wash, but Capex responding with a great stop today after a problem yesterday, have put Arendt in play, and Arendt is doing what he does, a just superlative GT driver.
He's got a big run. He's got a big run on Serra. Serra has to protect. Ooh, this is getting really dicey right now. I think for the real-time management team, I would be advising Mike Hedlund, if he can do it cleanly, maybe let this battle go. He's only got everything to lose at this stage. Yes, you want the overall win, but it's not like there's 3 minutes to go. There's 33 minutes on the clock. And he's got two of the best pros, factory drivers in the business right behind him.
And you can see how much Serra closed and really had to jump on the brakes here.
I mean, hats off to Mike Hedlund. He is doing a superb job. He's not cracking under this pressure, but you got to believe that Serra's just going to take a big risk here at some point.
Again, Arendt, as a result, getting a nice little run as they head down into the heel. This is an interesting thing for Daniel Serra. Remember, he has never run this championship before, and the very specific rule that you can go anywhere on the track you want as long as it's not in reaction to the guy behind you trying a move. I don't know that Sierra is that familiar with that. And
Hedlund is just doing his thing.
This is phenomenal.
Incredible.
He just turned a 46.9.
Well, yesterday, I think he was about 2 seconds off Dane's fastest lap in the race. He's about 1.5 seconds off right now, and he's going to get some fuel burn with that car as well. The car will get lighter theoretically quicker if we base it off Dane Cameron's stint. So he could end up being about 3/4 of a second quicker by the end of this run once he gets it on low fuel. The tires here are just hanging on incredibly well with the grip levels.
Serra has a little bit of a margin now. Back to Arendt finally, and looked like he maybe got a little bit of a run on Hedlund.
Tony Vilander there, curious to know, what do we do here? You can see that this championship could tighten up if Arendt gets around that red Ferrari. He is concerned. Tony is totally involved. He's like a director on that team in terms of giving the team direction. What should we do, guys? What do we tell Daniel to do? Do we push? Do we push? Does he take a chance? The other concern is, Greg, if you start running in the aero wash for a long time, whatever imbalance is creating typically as an understeer condition, that can just really grind the front tires, so suddenly you've got nothing left to fight with.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, how long do you stay here and risk hurting those tires? And the same applies now to Arendt. He's been right back there for a while now. He's feeling it as well.
On his charge, he set the fastest lap. The rate dipped into the 44s, 44.8. But I tell you what, these drivers running in the 47s, look in the background. Pat Long is going to come and join this group. He's running in clean air, and that is the difference in the performance of these cars right now. Clean air versus dirty air.
And Baptista a little bit farther back. He's turning mid-145s as well, so he's flying.
In the battle for the Pro-Am class, Hedlund leads overall. He's got a 13-second lead over Baca, who's now sitting in the 6th position overall.
There's Dane himself chatting on the radio here.
Curious to know what Dane's thinking.
Yeah. Oh, Arendt got a run this time. He got a nice toe. Figured Serra would protect it and then he went to the outside right away. He's there, he's along the outside, not enough. 30 minutes to go.
Hedlund just hasn't cracked yet, hasn't put a wheel on. There's Pat Long looking super smooth. Porsche seems stronger here today, Greg.
It does, it does. And then behind him there goes Baptista, who I've been talking about, who is eating into this as well. He just ran a lap a second quicker than Long, who's running half a second quicker than the guys in front. Wow, and the interesting thing is if Long gets there, by the time he gets there, could both, oh, Sarah got the run. Got the run this time, he's down to the inside. Is Hedlund gonna try and out-deep him down into the turn? No, smart move by Hedlund.
Just to slot back in. I think he's got enough momentum to try and make the repass. If I was him, I'd just open up the door for Alvaro. There he goes,
Yep.
Smart move.
Yep.
Maybe the team talked him through it. He showcased what he could do. That was
sure
beautiful
did.
driving. Mike Hedlund still has the lead and did the smart thing. Now does Sarah have the pace to take off, or does Alvaro have anything to fight him with?
And that little bit of time that they spend in that queue, how are their tires compared to Long, compared to Baptista? It's going to be interesting to see. So now into clear air, the very fast Danielle Serra and our very Ferrari leads, but Arendt right there in second. Today's coverage is brought to you in partnership with Purple Monkey Garage and with Ferrari. You know, over the years, Cal, we have seen Mike Hedlund put in some pretty darn good stints driving GT4 cars and this and that. What he's done this year, and particularly today, I think this GT3 platform, he loves that downforce and he can make it work.
He can make it work. I mean, he's got a lot of driving skill. He's got a lot of pace as well. But most importantly, what he's demonstrated to me is his mental strength.
Yes.
To be able to take this car to the front, maintain that for many laps with some of the best GT drivers globally right on his heels. Now he's got another one, Pat Long, Porsche factory driver. I'd try and find a nice little sweet spot here, probably behind Baptista, who's be where he wants to cycle back to, and let's just settle in and try and stroke it home for another victory.
I think you're absolutely right with that mindset thing, and here he does it again. Really, really smart. You know, he led when they were there and weren't close enough to do anything. He just kept the hammer down and said, you guys got to find a way by me. But when they got to that point where it would have been a little risky, he just let him slip through. I'm mega impressed. Right there, again, Long was probably, you know, he looked over, saw Long and went, he's going to shut the door, come across my nose here. He's serious, let him through. It doesn't affect, you know, the points are the same. They pull the Pro-Am guys out and score them on their own points table. So where you finish overall really has meaningless as long as you finish in front of the guys in your class.
I think for Mike Hedlund, he's going to clip that piece of video and watch it for many years to come.
Oh, I would.
That was a sweet, sweet segment of this race and of his career.
I'd somehow have that set on a timer to a video screen and use it to wake up. Because if that doesn't juice you up for a day, I don't know what would. That was phenomenal. I mean, the guy who won Le Mans, Hedlund held him off for, what, 5 laps? That's pretty savvy. Oh, boy. Baptista really working the curbs here.
Yeah, I think the key is to let him go and then just settle in. So the next car on the racetrack would be Baca. He's certainly not going to slow down and let Baca get to him. So now it's settle in. Find a rhythm, Mike. 26 minutes to go. Find your pace again.
And I saw no real indication that Hedlund was overdriving the car or anything that would have hurt the tires. He was great. The car should be fine.
My concern was just the slightest mistake and then Sarah suddenly diving down the inside, and he didn't see it.
Yep, that's not what you need at all. So Hedlund now, leading Pro-Am, is settled in behind the pros. Mike Hedlund continues now to lead in the Pro-Am category. However, he has let a couple of the pros that were getting pretty antsy behind him through. Smart move. What a drive he put in. But up front now it is Danielle Serra in the Ferrari. And it had to be some nail-biting times there for a little bit as he was trying to get through. Let's get down to Ryan with his starting driver.
And the whole team down here was pretty excited when Daniel was able to take that lead. Tony Vilander, you started this car. You had an interesting stint yourself, including some contact with the number 3 Bentley, Maxime Soulet. Can you take us through what happened in that incident?
Yeah, so basically it goes down to the start. So we have agreed starting zone. So on the left-hand side there's a darker blue guardrail. So the starter should throw in the flag at that time, but he threw it 20 to 50 meters earlier. So Maxim was actually in front of me and he pulled away. Then I was just behind him and he was pushing really hard. He made a mistake coming out of 8. He went off the track. So I went to the right-hand side to overtake him, he blocked. I went to the left-hand side, he blocked. Then we went to turn 9. I went down to the first gear. I touched him. I didn't have much pace. I didn't feel the touch inside the car, but it's very unfortunate. I'm not here to spin any of the cars. I'm not here to crash to any of the cars. At this age, I want to race clean. I've done my crazy battles in the past, so I went to apologize him. That didn't go that well, but I understand we are in the heat of the race, so hopefully later on there is more a 50-50 perspective to the thing. I was hungry to go inside. I was hungry to keep the lead, but as I said, unfortunate and absolutely not my way of racing or my style of racing, let's say nowadays. I don't want to hit anybody.
It does seem like the car is still very fast. Was it affected in any way by the contact?
No, I would not say about the contact, but for some reason we are really down on speed going to the bus stop. There was maybe a strong headwind going there, and I'm almost like a 10 kph, so 5 to 7 miles slower than yesterday, and I'm not even pulling the 6th gear. So that's why Daniel was struggling in the traffic, struggling to take the lead, and need to be a little bit defensive with the Bentley. Exciting moments right now, so let's hope and wait and see, and hopefully we finish the race well. We need to keep scoring points, and that's another reason why I cannot crash into anybody. So again, sorry for the K-Pax guys, sorry for Maxime Soulé if I destroyed his race, but it looks like they made a good comeback as well.
Good luck the rest of the way. Thanks.
Thank you. Sorry guys.
Yeah, it's very circumspect there, Tony is, and I like that. I had my wild period, you know, when I did my stuff. That's not how I want to race anymore, and you could tell he genuinely felt upset about it, but he also felt that he had to do something, and that Soulé had been a little aggressive on his own.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Maxime dropped the wheel. I think he immediate reaction was to protect to the right. I think he then felt, well, I've got enough of a gap, I can go back to the racing line, and that just opened up the door for Tony, and then he closed down on Tony. So I see it from both sides. I mean, I really do. It's so pivotal potentially in this championship fight that you're going to have harsh words between each camp. But at the end of the day, they're all out there racing. They're racing hard. They're pros. They don't give an inch, and they have to go for it.
And Sarah got held up just a little bit by Takeda-san in the number 96 Turner car, and that has allowed Arendt to be ever closer. Last time by, it was only a second. See if it is any closer to that as we are watching Mark Issa in that Hublot Ferrari. It's almost identical. Boy, just another second there. But Issa, again, this is his first appearance at this level running in a GT3 car, certainly in the Blancpain GT World Challenge America, stepping up from Ferrari Challenge North America, where he's leading in the Copa Shell category, which is the second tier to the Trofeo Pirelli category. But he has been really impressive in that category. And when I heard that he'd been paired with Martin Fuentes, who of course cut his teeth in Ferrari Challenge as well, I thought, what a great pairing. And Mark Issa, he can get the job done. He's a quick learner. Been fortunate to watch him a lot this year. And when he does make a rare mistake, that's the only time he makes it. He figures it out, and he loves what he's doing. And when he has a good finish, the celebrations are legendary as well. So,
board with him here, you can see he's really super smooth with his inputs. Done a really nice job trying to get another victory for that team.
Up and out of the toe of the boot, making the climb and heading down into the heel, but coming up behind him is Sierra and Arendt, and it looks like Arendt might be closer still. The battle is on. Here's your leader, Daniel Serra, right behind him, and I mean right behind him now is Alvaro Arendt in the Bentley. And then not too far behind those two, third and fourth is the Porsche of Long and Baptista in the sister Bentley. This race still has 20 minutes to unfold here. Let's see, what's the margin this time? Yeah. Serra just turned his personal best lap, but Arendt dipped into the 44s and took a tenth away.
Yeah. Sarah's best lap and the car's best lap of the day, a 45 flat, but Brent was just marginally quicker. But again, he's right in that aero wash kind of phase. Seems like once you get between half a second and a second, it affects the ability to that car to get any closer. I'm sure for Brent, he's going to be looking way down the road to see if there's any traffic potentially going to come into the mix and just try and be in the right place at the right time to make a move. And you're going to feel he's going to be aggressive. Yes. Thomas Blam, their strategist, said if that's the way our ferry wants to play it, admittedly it was on his sister car, they're going to get aggressive. You would have to imagine that the message has gone out to Brent. Oh. There we talk about it right there.
Traffic. Brent, oh, he wanted to thread the needle there. Now, what can he do coming out of the toe here? Well, actually, Sarah got a pretty decent run. Moves over immediately to protect. Now, what can Brent do? Any kind of an undercut move here, trying to pick the throttle up as soon as he can.
So it turns in a little bit earlier, maybe just to protect that inside lane.
Look at the rear view screen there.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. These onboard rear view cameras really give the driver a great aid in terms of knowing where the competitor is, where to place the race car.
That wall right there, that could be North America's champions wall. It's like Montreal. That is some close stuff. With that margin now down to half a second. The one thing I've been noticing is, well, that traffic backed those two guys up a little bit, so Long had a good lap. But these guys have been running high 44s, low 45s. Long and Baptista have been in the mid to high 45s. This lead duo right now just has something extra right now.
Yeah, they had that little bit of pace. And you have to remember Baptista's pace is being minimized a little bit by running close to Pat Long right now. Certainly his teammate had the pace early, running very fast laps.
There's Baptista, who is reeled in Long, so this is the battle for the final podium spot right now.
The dominant performance that he put in at the end of last year when he swept both of those sprint rounds, Greg.
Yeah, he just, each race he won by over 11 seconds margin of victory. It was remarkable. Battle for third, really stout here at Watkins Glen for the Blancpain GT World Challenge America, presented by CrowdStrike. And that is Rodrigo Baptista. The number 3 Bentley has closed up and run down Pat Long in the Porsche Consulting Wright Motorsports Porsche. And they are coming up on the back of the AM leader, the number 7 Hublot and Alpha Prime and Ferrari of Fort Lauderdale in the hands of Mark Issa. Issa, I think, just got a little wide there. Gathered it up and made the turn, but this is an opportunity perhaps for Baptista.
Absolutely. Pat Long has to manage this very carefully. Eyes ahead, eyes behind. Just try and manage the runoff here. Just try and get good acceleration off that final corner and clear this Ferrari down into the brake zone. I think he'll do it. The key is now going to be Baptista. Can he get inside, or will he lose a little bit of time? He commits. Nice job by Rodrigo.
And nice job by Issa, too. He clearly sensed that he might be coming through and waited on his turn in a little bit, didn't he?
Yeah, just really read the situation nicely.
Yes.
Baptista, though, a big run as you're climbing the hill. It's nice to have that hole in the air punch. You're climbing the hill. That puts a strain on the acceleration. Now he's got alongside him. Can he clear him? He does.
Wow. That
big
was a
move.
heck of a toe, yeah.
Sure if there's a party mode button on that Bentley. If there was, he was using it right there.
So Baptista now up into third. So it's Ferrari, Bentley, Porsche in the top 4. And then the Acura of Mike Hedlund. 5th overall, leading in Pro-Am for real-time racing, the number 43. And Marco Holzer has been able to get around Barkey as well. And so Hedlund's got another car between himself and his closest pursuer, Barkey. And meanwhile, as we watch Hedlund, Ryan, remarkable opening 5 laps of Hedlund's stint, and Dane Cameron has to be impressed.
I imagine he is. I'm sure you're proud of your own stint, but what your co-driver Mike did when he jumped in, leading this thing overall with some really hungry pros behind him, does that bring a smile to your face?
Yeah, I know it makes him super happy too. there's nothing that Mike likes more than giving the pros a hard time. So we were reminding him that we're not racing any of those guys, and you know, he wasn't just going to pull over and let him by. He was going to make him work for it a little bit and at least have him make an effort to go by him. So I know, happy for him. I know he really enjoys that stuff, and the Real-Time boys and Mike and everybody have been doing a tremendous job since we put this pairing together.
Everywhere that we've gone so far this season, the NSX seems to be such a strong platform, whether it's from Real-Time or Racer's Edge or Gradient. It just seems like a really solid platform to work with. You've driven just about everything. How does this car compare?
It's really excellent, and you know, especially on our program, you know, we've had 2 different AM guys, also a couple other ones down the pit lane. So you can really see the step forward that Acura and HPD made with this Evo kit and making this car even faster, making it easier to drive, and making it faster on a wider range of racetracks that you see on this World Challenge schedule. So, yeah, I mean, hats off to everybody there, and it's a pleasure to be a part of it. And hopefully we can get 2 wins in a row here, and sweep a weekend would be pretty special.
Fingers crossed. Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, it would be. And again, you know, talking about their opportunity here, win in a second. That's 7 points. You said make up 6 in each round.
28 points behind. That will long way to go.
Yes,
13 minutes on the board. But if it stays the same, that'll be down to 21. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be fun.
This battle is pretty interesting as well, as Sarah continues to lead, but Arendt absolutely refusing to go away here. That margin has stayed under a second for a while. It's been as low as half a second up to 9/10. Once Baptista cleared long, he's been able to open it up a little bit.
Yeah, he's got clean air right now. He may be able to run a bit quicker even than Alvaro Arendt. To wait and see here, but Sarah ran the fastest lap of the race a couple of laps ago to set a new marker at 1:44.71.
Boy, Arendt just set his personal best at 1:44.75 as well, so they are going after it here. Right now, Danielle Serra and the R. Ferry Ferrari continues to lead Alvaro Arendt. Today's coverage is being brought to you in partnership with VP Racing Fuel, with Acura, and with Lamborghini. There is your lead duo at this stage. Want to give you a quick update, by the way. After review, the drive-through penalty that had been initially issued to the 22 Allegra Porsche has been rescinded and canceled. So Daniel Morad is just fine at this stage. He'd rather be a little farther up the grid than 9th at this point, certainly, but at least they don't have to deal with that drive-through penalty. And Sarah, and I really think that it's what you're talking about, Cal, this margin between the two of them, you know, fluctuating between half a second to a second. It gets down to half a second, and then Alvaro just loses the front end a little bit and has to drop back.
Yeah, it's close. There's, you know, rub your fingers together. That's the margin between the two cars here today. So it's all about just getting that track position. But it's still been a great recovery, but you'd have to feel that the 9 team and the K-Pax team will be very disappointed if they get beaten and swept here this weekend and have that points lead essentially doubled.
Yes.
Came in with a 14-point deficit. If the Ferrari stays out front, it'll be 28 at the end of the weekend.
And Sarah just resetting fast lap of the race, 1:44.691. That just tells you, one, you've talked about it, Cal, how low the degradation is on the tires here and how long they remain. And then the really great drivers can feel that minuscule, in a way, drop of weight on every lap and are able to just extract that little extra bit out of it. That's when you know you got a special driver.
The level is unbelievable. I mean, just they are maximizing, they are executing, they're draining every ounce of performance out of the car, out of the tire, right to the checkered flag. And as the car, as you said, drops a little bit of weight with the fuel burn and the tires staying so consistent, that means the lap time continues to drop.
On board here with David Askew. It's the number 63 Isalco Security National Mortgage DXDT Mercedes, started by Ryan Dial, who had qualified and started in the 3rd overall spot. Great lap by Ryan in qualifying. Kind of got buried at the start just a little bit. They haven't been truly able to recover just yet. And look, I think that car that you just barely see up in front of him is the team car from DXDT. That's the CrowdStrike Mercedes, the 04 of George Kurtz. And that margin is about 2.5 seconds.
A little too close yesterday.
Yes, they did. It was an unintentional argy-bargy between those two here. Uh-oh, and some traffic for Sarah. Leader Danielle Serra running up into some traffic here. That's David Askew, and he's trying to sneak through here and does. Askew left the door open, but then had to move over. He can't hit the disappear button for too long, and that definitely hurt Parent.
Oh, big time. Big time. Looked like that was going to hurt Sarah initially, but ultimately it's turned out to hurt Alvaro. And as you said, there's nowhere at these speeds you just can't disappear. Yeah. You got to be so careful with the moves that you make. And also the drivers coming up behind you interpreting what you're going to do.
Now, of course, this is an ISC-owned track, and I could have sworn I saw Parent there trying to get a little side draft off of Askew just to try and help him a little bit here as they worked up. And there is Kurtz, who are the next car in the queue for these guys to catch.
Just bounce back for the CrowdStrike car. George Kurtz currently 5th in class, ahead of his teammate. He's had a solid run this year. I think he's really got his confidence back with his Mercedes AMG GT3 platform. And good to see him enjoying his racing again.
And I'm wondering here if Brent getting balked just a little bit may not be as bad as you would think. You never like to lose anything, but it dropped him back out of the wash a little bit. And if that just gets that front end to work a little bit more effectively, right as Sarah now comes up in the back of Kurtz, maybe this will give Parent an opportunity to run him down again.
Well, I think this next lap will tell the tale.
Yes.
Sort of pace does Alvaro have left in that race car. You can hear that tire squeal.
Yeah.
Heard that a lot in qualifying. Daniel Serra qualified second to Alvaro Parent in the first round of qualifying here on Saturday morning. They were able to tweak the settings a little bit. I think it was just a tire pressure change for Tony Vilander. That gave him the edge to grab the pole for the second race that we saw earlier today, obviously starting from up front. So it's really subtle, and you just get outside of that window, but is that a potential chink in the armor as he lost the balance a little bit with that tire squeal we were hearing?
That's a good point. Here is Baptista, 3rd overall. Once he cleared Pat Long, he's been able to open that margin up to the tune of just about 4 seconds. So he sits in a comfortable 3rd here behind Sarah and Parent and in front of Long. Here is Baptista. He's been able to open things up just a little bit coming up in the back of David Askew. Just want to remind everybody, Hedlund continues to lead in Pro-Am, and Issa, in the number 7 Ferrari, continues to lead in the Am category. He's got himself about 16 seconds clear of Chris Cagnazzi in the number 19 Ferrari. So Issa, nice margin right now, and Baptista now up onto the back of Kurtz through the very snug turn number 9. Hit our 6 minutes to go mark. Oof.
You have to wonder with this point scenario whether the 3 car will need to support the 9 car for any chance of chasing down the Ferrari team and drivers and manufacturers as well. All of the titles still on the line with 4 rounds to go at the end of today. Mike Hedlund now going to be under pressure from Marco Holzer. Still has a healthy lead over Martin Barkey, who really is the main target in consideration in this race today.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, he just has to be smart, recognize this is a pro car, doesn't affect our class. So don't fight him too hard here. He has certainly shown not only speed, but some race smarts. And as Dane said, we were certainly coaching him up on that as well.
Talking him through the big picture, but you can't just make him park it. And he was just in the groove, and I think that tire warmer situation certainly helps that, gets him comfortable. He's got brand new Pirelli P0s. He's got warm tires. And he had the confidence to stay at the front for many, many laps today.
Behind Holzer now, Daniel Morad has also cleared Barkey, and Morad just turned his best lap of the race, a personal best at a 1:45.9. So he's starting to find some speed. And they are coming up on some traffic here. 3 different classes on your screen right now. Leader in Am, leader in Pro-Am. Nice job by Mark Issa leading in the Am category in the Ferrari. Had Hedlund and Marco Holzer coming up on him at a fairly good clip. Got down to the toe of the boot, recognized they were there, opened the wheel up, let them both slide through. That was a class act by Issa, and again, some great respect and driving from everybody out here right now.
Battle for 5th overall. Car you're looking at right there, the orange and white Acura NSX, and Mike Hedlund continues to lead in Pro-Am. Will he just let Holzer go? He's an aggressive young driver. He's got to think about the big picture of the class victory. Holzer slows down.
Yeah.
Big time. That was bizarre.
What happened? It was just very sudden, wasn't it? Now he's right back on the pace, it seems.
So that's taking the pressure off Hedlund. Doesn't have to consider whether just to let him go.
Meanwhile, at the 3.5 minute to go mark, there is your leader, Daniel Serra, for R. Ferry in the Ferrari.
Well, he just laid down another 44.5 just to rub it in.
Wow. Yeah, he is just putting it down now. Arendt just can't maintain that pace, just ran a 45 flat and lost another half second.
He'll be a dejected. He put in a brilliant performance here this weekend, but just hasn't been able to grab the maximum point scores either day. And that will frustrate Alvaro. They've prepared, they've been testing all of the circuits that they're running on this year. They had a great test here. They rolled off the truck quick. Ferrari were quicker in practice, but come qualifying, suddenly the Bentleys were right there when they tuned it up a little bit. Baptista, what was he thinking coming in here this weekend? I think they needed a big weekend. They were a bit further back in points. They needed to sweep like they did last year for him to get back in the game.
Yeah, and I mean, he just put on a clinic last year. It was unbelievable. It was his breakout weekend as he would have been promoted about halfway through the season to as a pro, and showed up at that final race and just blew everybody out of the water, and had a lot of people just shaking their heads. Not the people who had been following him for a little bit. I remember, Darren Law said, that's why we put him in this car. We saw that when he was running our GT4 car, the potential, and he just executed beautifully. This is a little bit different car, and he's still giving it a very good ride as we now hop on board with 4th place Pat Long, the Porsche Consulting Wright Motorsports.
Very strong weekend for Pat Long and Scott Hargrove, coming off that victory at the previous event of our championship trail at Sonoma. It's bizarre that day, Pat Long had to hop on a plane and head over to Le Mans for the test day, so he didn't enjoy the spray any champagne in California. But it's been a solid weekend.
Solid, but in both cases, both drivers had to make some pretty remarkable opening laps work, didn't they? To put themselves up, and if it holds as it is here, they would have 2 straight 4th, just missing the podium in both races. Meanwhile, Hedlund continues to lead in the Pro-Am category. And going back to where Barkey is, that margin would be some 20 seconds he's got, so he's in pretty good shape. And white flag coming out. Daniel Serra picking up the white flag, 1 lap to go. There's Arendt coming through in 2nd.
I think that's the biggest lead that this Ferrari has had all day. Whoever was behind it, 3.5 second gap now to Arendt. I think Arendt's just settled in, recognizing nothing they can do today, just got to live to fight another one at the next round of the championship at Road America. Should be a good weekend for Bentley there, I would feel.
Yeah, I would think so as well. I think this new car will really work there. The somewhat tighter corners, the car's better in, and it's still plenty good in the fast sweeper, so should be fun to see. But this Ferrari just doesn't seem to have a lot of weak links, does it?
It doesn't, and if you think about it, with the victory here today, that should extend their points margin up to 28 points. So They could effectively finish second behind the number 9 car for the rest of the way. They'd be tied. Then it would come down to a tiebreaker in terms of who has the most victories. But it's that tight. I mean, they're definitely on the front foot now with the sweep of the weekend for the championship.
Last time through the toe. Making that steep climb up over to the rise, and then they'll fall into the heel. Sarah just continues. Stretch that margin a little bit. There we go. Into the heel and the climb up the hill. Sierra, Arendt, Baptista, and Long. Your top 4. 5th remains Hedlund.
Let's not forget he's subbing for Miguel Molina, who's busy this weekend at Silverstone. I'm not sure how he finished. He qualified on the front row for a Ferrari there, so to be drafted in mid-season, a lot of pressure on Daniel Serra's shoulders. He didn't blink.
Here we go, last turn onto the front straight, and at Watkins Glen, it is a Ferrari sweep for our Ferry, Daniel Serra, and Tony Vilander. And there is our Remo Ferry himself celebrating at the wall, and Serra went right to that wall to celebrate with them. Parent second. Here comes Baptista for third, and then Long comes through in that white Porsche to pick up that 4th spot. And he's down just a little bit, but here comes Mike Hedlund, who in many ways was the story of this race. Coming out of the pits after real time, nailed a pit stop, Cal, and put Hedlund out in front, and Hedlund held off. One of the best in the business for a number of laps, and then wisely let them through and earns another win. They too sweep the weekend for Acura in real time at the Glen.
Perfect execution. Well done, guys.
Yeah. And in the background, another Ferrari sweeping the weekend. That for Mark Issa and Martin Fuentes and Ferrari of Fort Lauderdale in the Hublot Alpha Prime. Ferrari, as they keep a remarkable run this season, going for Martin Fuentes, but for Issa, comes up, makes the move from Ferrari Challenge, Cal, where he leads in the Copachel category, and in his first ever GT3 weekend of racing, brings home a couple of wins. So Mark Issa will be jubilant as well. And of course, we're going to be hearing from the winners in just a little bit. Boy, Sarah took it right to that wall to celebrate with him, didn't he? He knows how special this one is. And for him to come in, first, not even, first time with this team, but first time, I believe, in this championship. To just come in and just slot in like that and impress Tony Vilander, that says a lot.
Yeah, when Tony says I had to be up on my toes because suddenly there was a new challenge, and I think it's good inspiration. I mean, it also gives you a fresh perspective. I mean, he's driven the car before, so he comes in here, maybe some new ideas, just ways that he's doing something a bit differently in different championships. So I like that crossover. You can get in a bit of a rut, and it's nice to have a fresh face in the camp, particularly someone as quick. And certainly such a nice guy, too. He seems to be the perfect fit. I knew his father many years ago when he was competing in Formula 3 over in Europe before his dad, Chico, went on to compete in Formula 1. He was a super nice guy as well. He's brought up a wonderful son.
And wicked quick as well. All right, they're funneling their way down into pit lane, and class winners will be heading into the victory lane queue, of course. Barkey did end up in the 2nd spot, along with that great team that is fielded by Racer's Edge. Cal Marcelli, Imperato, and Olsen 3rd. Here comes the Ferrari in and makes the stop. Issa on top of Cagnazzi and Lazzaro in the 111 Ferrari, and then the BMW of Takeda and Shirazaka are 3rd in AM.
Marcella, the Colotto engineer, does such a remarkable job. She works tirelessly with all of the Ferrari factory teams and customer teams, for that matter.
Yeah, I mean, every Ferrari that's running here this weekend, she's got a three-wheeler that she's just dancing around between different paddocks and pit stops to check over data, make sure things are working. And yeah, just a great group that make that happen. And of course, there is the Bentley of Baptista right behind here as we are getting ready for some interviews and celebrations to begin here at Watkins Glen International. Victory Circle celebrations about to commence here in the Blancpain GT World Challenge America, presented by CrowdStrike and Watkins Glen. Remo Ferri has wandered over to join his two drivers in Victory Circle, and we are waiting to get the word to send it down to Ryan Marine, and he is ready to go. Ryan?
Well, a bunch of happy guys in red down here in Victory Lane at Watkins Glen. Daniel Serra, you joined this program for the weekend and pick up a couple of wins. It doesn't get much better than that.
It was what's supposed to be a easy race because Tony had a gap. We lost a bit of time on the pits, and then I was behind an Acura that is much faster than us on the straight, so it was really difficult to overtake him. I had to wait for a mistake, and then Alvaro arrived, and then it was like almost qualifying every lap until the end. But it's nice. It's nice to come here and help them to extend the lead. So yeah,
it's a big race for the championship. We'll have Remo step in here for your team, for this car, this driver of yours, Tony. The results that you had this weekend, huge with the championship in mind.
Could not be any better. I think they did a great job, but two great guys. I think the weekend turned out very good. So we look to the next one now, and hopefully we could do it again.
We'll see you there.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and that next one is Road America, and I'll tell you what, folks, you don't want to miss that. So if you haven't got tickets and you're going to be in that area, check it out. Go to the Road America website and come out and join us for that one. Here are the results. And again, if it is a black number and a white background, that's a pro car. White on black is Pro-Am, and white on red is Am. And again, right there in fifth, just a big story, I think, developing here. Missing the opening doubleheader weekend, but bringing themselves right up into potential championship contention. Hedlund and Cameron in real time.
It's going to get feisty, I think, the rest of the way. I mean, certainly a great weekend for the Racers Edge group as well, second on the road, but you could see Marcelli had equal pace, really, to Dane Cameron in that opening stanza, and just the pit stop wasn't quite as crisp, and just Hedlund's outlaps were just amazing.
All right, we've been talking about the remarkable run by Mike Hedlund. Ryan, you found him.
It was an outstanding stint from Mike Hedlund. You are sent out in the overall lead because of an excellent job by the crew from Real Time Racing, and you held some of the best GT drivers out there at bay for 4 or 5 laps. Is that pretty stunning, pretty stellar from your perspective?
I would be stunned if I held them out for the whole race. I went as hard as I could, but I didn't want to risk throwing it off or having contact with them because I know they were in a different race. I was keeping an eye on my mirrors. If one of them threw it down, like the Ferrari did at the end, I would give them room, like I didn't want any part of that. But I figured if I was as quick and could stay ahead without slowing them down, I was going to do that. I really wanted to win overall, but I mean, class is pretty good.
I'd say so. And Dane, for you, even though you weren't there for the first 2 races of the season, do you allow yourself to start thinking about championship with the run of results that you've had recently?
I think that's a bit of a stretch, given how many races, plus the one we missed in Mosport when we had to go pro when Mike had that back injury. So we're just having fun trying to win races for me, for Acura in Real Time, and for Mike. So yeah, we'll just keep doing what we're doing. We'll see how the rest of the tracks suit this package. I haven't driven the car at, well, we tested Road America, but who knows what Vegas is going to be. So yeah, anything can happen. We'll see if we win some more races and see how it all shakes out.
Mission accomplished today. Congratulations.
Yeah, absolutely great job. And I just want to make a note here, for all the problems they've had over the weekend with some mechanical issues, Daniel Moorhead and Billy Johnson fought back to a top 6 overall finish in the number 22 Allegra car. That's pretty impressive to just stay with it and make it happen like that. But tell you, what a run for our Ferry here at the Glen. Well, things calming down here at Watkins Glen once again. I mean, it has been an absolutely crazy busy weekend with all of the different categories that are running here as part of the SRO Motorsports America program, of course, championed by the Blancpain GT World Challenge. But you know, yesterday's race was intriguing. I don't know that it was particularly exciting, but this one had some real fascinating moments to it, didn't it?
Yeah, there's a tasty battle out there today. So many different scenarios going on with the various championships and the overlap between the pros and the amps. We saw that immediately. We expected it when we looked at the grid, when you had pros on the front row and then 4 pro-am cars lined up behind, and then you had someone like Suchek very much in the overall championship mix back on row 4. So it was fun to watch. I mean, obviously Mike Hedlund was the story there in some ways in terms of being able to handle the pressure of being in the lead, not cracking, And he essentially let everyone by at the end of the day. I don't think there was any big move by Serra. I think he's finally thought, you know what, let's not risk this class victory here today. So the Acuras are strong. You could see that both Cameron and Marcelli were hanging with Tony Vilander slightly quicker right before they made their pit stops. Marcelli laid down a really quick lap. So the pressure's on Marcelli and Baca, I think. They've now got a 21-point lead with 4 rounds to go. And if Cameron and Hedlund continue to do what they're doing, we now go to real times home track at Road America. They've tested there. They should be strong.
Well, and that's the thing I was going to ask. Watching what you've seen here, this is a very high-speed track. But Road America, you think high speed, and the long straights, of that track. What do you foresee maybe playing out there based on what we've heard? In particular, Sarah's comment about the Acuras being a little quicker in a straight line.
Well, I think the Acuras are going to be strong once again. I think that could be a great track for the Bentleys. They have to maximize the score there. And what they also need, they need the 3 to beat the R-Ferry car as well. They need that buffer in points. They're now 28 points behind. So that means that if the R-Ferry car finishes second all the way through to the finish of the season, they'd still be tied for the lead. Then it would come down to a tiebreaker. So that would be unusual, but they need to get the big points. They need to get the gap on the Ferrari to really have a chance when we go to Vegas.
Yep, and as we heard Dane say, Vegas, that's going to be a brand new venue to everybody. No testing on it coming into it. That's going to be a case of which team has just got the best prep in the can, and the best data book, and the best ability to adapt and adjust as a weekend unfolds. And tell you what, it's going to produce an interesting championship finale and a heck of a party that night at the Bellagio as well. So Vegas is not going to be one to miss either here as we are closing in on the final couple events of this season. Watkins Glen, we're starting to see some of the teams making their way over to the official podium area to do a little bit of celebrating. Tops among them, of course, the R-Ferry team, as they are queuing up and getting ready to go here. And again, Sierra Parent Baptista, the Ferrari Bentley was how it finished in this one. Hedlund, it was 2 Acuras and then a Porsche in Pro-Am, and it was Ferrari, and BMW in the Am category as things have concluded here. And I think one of the best developments of the day here, based on forecasts we were looking at, was we didn't get any rain as we take a look at the results once again.
Yeah, and that was a big threat. And when Tony won here yesterday, he said the big concern tomorrow is the rain. I remember, I think it was CTMP last year, we had a wet session and the Ferraris were like 5 seconds off the pace. So I think there was a big concern for the championship leaders. We would see a wet track today, and that could have shook things up a little bit.
Yeah, he was concerned. He told me at CTMP that year, he said, this is the first time in my career I've been outside of the 110% qualifying effort. And so they were definitely concerned, but it did materialize, and that certainly produced a fascinating race that unfolded today as you take a look at the results. And it certainly is going to be interesting leading into, after a little bit of a break now, as we head into Road America, and a track that produces its own challenges. One of them could be weather. I mean, we're talking about third weekend in September. They used to run the kart race there, and they had some weather. Yeah, absolutely.
I tease, but it's going to be a tricky one. It's a wonderful circuit. It's my favorite in North America, with no disrespect to the one we're at here. This is a great track as well as VIR that we've raced on this year. Some of my favorites, but Road America, I love the environment. The racetrack has a little bit of everything, elevation change, high-speed sections, big brake zones, good overtaking opportunities. We expect to see plenty of action there.
Absolutely, and a couple of corners like the carousel and the kink that keep you on your toes as well. So make sure, like I said, if you're close to Road America and you don't have tickets, get to roadamerica.com and get them. You want to come out and join us for this one, as this championship is just heating up. And as we see the drivers starting to make their way up onto the podium, that's Martin Fuentes and Mark Issa. Let's go to some highlights. And there was that great launch by Soulé, jumped into the early lead and was able to pin Vilander a little bit. And here came Cameron around the outside, or at least he made the attempt.
Yeah, he tried to make the sweep around the outside there. Tony defended it nicely. Porsche's really having a good first lap once again. Then we see that little bobble by Soulé. Vilander down to the inside, up and over the curb, turns to Bentley. Didn't get a penalty call on it, dodged a big one there.
There's another look at it. He was on the curb and the Bentley was turning in, but of course both sides had a little different view on it. And then the number 3 of Baptista, as at the time it was his Soulé coming after it and working it here. And then Hedlund getting into the lead early and hanging on to it for a while, but then wisely, when that big move was made, he let Serra through.
He did. It was just a superb performance, and he managed it wonderfully well. Great execution by the real-time team for another Pro-Am victory.
And the win then went to overall to the R Ferry team. An absolutely great run, expanded out the points, and real-time sweeping the weekend in Pro-Am here at the Glen. And the podiums are continuing here. Take a look right there in the middle. That is Mike Hedlund and Dane Cameron celebrating the win in Pro-Am. Martin Barkey and Kyle Marcelli to the left of the screen. And I love it. Imperato and Dennis Olsen on the other side. And I'll tell you what, Mike Hedlund, it was just fun to watch him put that drive in.
He is strong mentally. I mean, he's a quick driver, but just having the mental capacity to not be phased at all, to be leading those guys.
There's 2 more sets.
It was fun to watch today.
Yes, it absolutely was. And he did a heck of a job, no question about that.
2 more sets.
And we are now getting ready for the overall and pro podium that should be making their way up for the celebrations here in Victory Lane at Watkins Glen.
Baptista and Maxime Soule. Also driving for K-Pax, finishing second today, Alvaro and Andy Soucek. Your class winners will be announced next. Sweeping the weekend for our Ferry Motorsports in a Ferrari 488 GT3. Please welcome Daniel Serra and Tony Vielander. We'd also like to welcome team owner Remo Ferry to the podium, please. We have a special presentation from our friends at Blancpain to commemorate the victory here today. And we'll have you all please pose for the photo. Raise those trophies up high if you would, please. There we go. That's it. Thank you, guys. About a round of applause for our pro-class podium. Thanks to Pirelli for their continued support of SRO American competition. Also, would like to thank our friends with VP Fuels and VP Lubricants for their support. So we'll put the VP hats on and lift the trophies up once again. For another round of photos, please.
Well, I'll tell you, that was a heck of a race that they all put on. And again, Serra and Vielander executing to perfection. K-Pax doing a solid job as well, stepping it up just a little bit. However, you can see they're a little subdued up there, and I think that they understand the significance of what's unfolding here in terms of that championship.
Soule is a little disappointed.
I think so too.
He feels that he was roughed up there a little bit. I just see it as a racing incident. I mean, I appreciate both teams' comments in terms of it was a game changer in the championship potentially, but it's just hard racing. Soule had a little bobble there, and Tony saw an opportunity. I really feel that Soule could have opened up the hands a little bit and run side by side through that particular corner. Other corners, you're just going to give up the position. With that one, he had the opportunity to run side by side and maybe keep it safe.
Yep, I agree completely. Just a little bit more room, they both would have gone through. But Such is the nature of racing, and this was a good one. And there is Daniel Serra, who wins the Quick Shifter Award. Congratulations. It's going to wrap up our coverage from here at Watkins Glen for the Blancpain GT World Challenge America, presented by CrowdStrike. Thank you so much for joining us. And next race on the calendar here for the Blancpain GT World Challenge America Series in a few weeks' time. Road America, America's National Park of Speed. Should be spectacular. Do join us.
So long.